Welcome to the program. I'm Kano Kikiolu here in Lagos, sitting in for Seun Okinbaloye. A very challenging day it's been nationally. Even for us here in the newsroom, having to first internalize, then report the stories coming in definitely takes its toll. And just as the nation was trying to grapple with last night's attack, which claimed at least 7 lives, gunmen this afternoon again attacked Gidan train station along the same Abuja-Kaduna rail track. Now, sources told Channels Television that there were indications that terrorists may have planted IEDs, that's improvised explosive devices, on the tracks. And this forced the train heading to Abuja from Kaduna to stop. The Nigeria Railway Corporation had earlier suspended train operations along the Abuja-Kaduna route due to what it called unforeseen circumstances and promised to give further communication in due course. But what is being done now to apprehend the terrorists and forestall future attacks? Well, President Muhammadu Buhari has met with service chiefs and directed the immediate implementation of an integrated security surveillance and monitoring solution that's for the Abuja-Kaduna railway line, which is to be extended to cover the Lagos-Ibadan railway line. He also directed the Nigerian Railway Corporation management to speedily repair the damaged lines and resume normal service without delay. The president gave these directives in Abuja after receiving briefs from the heads of the nation's security agencies, led by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Wado, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouki Aya, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Isiaka Mo, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, amongst others. The president also charged the law enforcement officers and chiefs to bring back all passengers kidnapped and ensure that each of the Carlos terrorists are hunted down and made to face justice for their heinous acts, as no one or group should be allowed to make the country prostrate. In the president's words, like most Nigerians, I'm deeply pained by its occurrence, the second of its type, which has resulted in the death of a yet-to-be-determined number of passengers and others who suffered injuries. The attack on the train, a safe means of transport to many, is callous, and our thoughts are with the families of the deceased and prayers for the injured. President Buhari also reiterated his earlier directive that the military should be more decisive and not spare anyone unlawfully wielding the AK-47 weapon. Well, before the service chiefs met with the president, the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, and the Inspector General of Police were actually at the scene of yesterday's train attack, and they were there to assess the situation as all the security agencies activated rescue operations to rescue all the victims of the unfortunate event. Now, to put this in context, there was an attempted attack on the airport, that's the Kaduna International Airport, on Saturday. There was this train attack last night and yet another attack, this time on a train station today. So the Chief of Defense Staff spoke about the attack on the international airport and yesterday's attack and talked about what is being done and how the military and security agencies are approaching this. Take a listen.
It's one ambush too many, and the military is not taking it lying low as they vow to track down the terrorists who have wreaked havoc on the train conveying passengers from Abuja to Kaduna. So far, some bodies have been recovered, with many wounded and receiving treatment in hospital. One of them, a former deputy governor of Zamfara State. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Wado, leads a team, including the Inspector General of Police, to the scene of the attack. And he says those responsible will be apprehended and face the wrath of the law.
It's very sad that in this 21st century, we still have heartless individuals who want to make life unbearable for the rest of the citizens. This is dastardly act, but I'd like to assure you that those behind it will not go unpunished. Security, like I have always said and maintained, is everybody's business. Beyond that, here what you find is what I consider to be a calculated attempt. I'm sure, given the geography of what you just said, that it must have been something that was timed, that was deliberate. But then, of course, we will build on this knowledge and then to be able to go after them. What I like to assure Nigerians is that those who indeed were responsible for this dastardly act will be punished and they will be brought to justice. That is an assurance. And then to also say that the armed forces, the police, and of course security agencies, intelligence and security agencies remain very committed to ensuring that we have peace within our land. I'm sure if not for this very ignoble act of yesterday, for a long time we have had some form of reprieve. But of course we are not resting on our laurels. We're going to build on some of the lessons we've learned and then to see how well to drive it forward.
The words of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, who was right there at the scene of the attack earlier today. Well, the Vice President has also visited Kaduna State to commiserate with the victims of the attack. Professor Yemi Oshimajo took a detour while on his way to the Bola Tinubu Colloquium, which has also been cancelled on account of the attack, and headed to the 44 Military Hospital in company of Governor Nasir El-Rufai to see some of the persons that were injured in the train attack. Now, one of the victims of the terrorist attack is a young female doctor who served at the Kaduna State Dental Center and worked with St. Gerard's Hospital, Kakuri, Dr. Chinelo Wado. At exactly 9:43 p.m. during the attack yesterday, she tweeted these words: "I'm in the train. I have been shot. Please pray for me." Now, there were varying responses to the post, majority doubting her, while some others believed and prayed, hoping for the best. But that was the last we heard from her, as she was reported dead hours after. Now, in a statement by the Nigerian Medical Association, the umbrella body made up of medical and dental practitioners, the body mourns the tragic death of Dr. Chinelo Wado, who was reported to have lost her life from injuries sustained from gunshots. Part of the statement reads, "As an association, we vehemently decry the worsening insecurity in the country, which has made all of us and Nigerians as a whole vulnerable to violent attacks by hoodlums, bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists who are currently having a field day, causing us deep sorrows and severe pains." Goes on to say, the untimely death of the young, promising Dr. Chinelo, who served at the Kaduna State Dental Center and worked with St. Gerard's Hospital, Kakuri, while striving to earn an honest living, is one other death too many. The association notes that needless bloodletting and senseless loss of lives is fast becoming a recurrent decimal in our country, thus worsening the alarming effects of brain drain, which in many instances have been attributable to the worsening security situation in the country. Well, the association also recommends that the federal government give a strong consideration to the establishment of state police to further complement the efforts of the Nigerian police, while praying that God grant the families of Dr. Chinelo and all of the victims of the very unfortunate incident the fortitude to bear the irreparable loss. Well, the updates on this story are coming in fast, and we'll be bringing them for you tonight. But before that, let's also bring you a roundup of all the top political stories.
Former chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Yobe State, Abuja-Kaduna, has lamented what he described as misrule in Yobe State under the All Progressives Congress. Kaduna, while declaring his intention to join the governorship race in 2023, advised the electorate to be more aware in the coming election. He made his intention known at Dapchi headquarters of Busari Local Government Council of the state. Also at the event, Kolo Zana led his supporters from the All People's Party and pledged his allegiance to the People's Democratic Party.
We know the development that they want, so we are going to give them based on their need.
35-year-old James Endurance has promised good representation if elected as member of the Delta State House of Assembly in 2023. According to him, he decided to challenge the status quo since he believed he had what it takes to provide strong leadership and representation for the people of Anyocha South State constituency. He was speaking after receiving the nomination and expression of interest forms.
Based on the impact I've made so far in my community, I believe I can do this. I have the capacity.
One of the founding members of the People's Democratic Party from Adamawa State, Dr. Umar Ardo, has dumped the People's Democratic Party for the Social Democratic Party. Dr. Ardo said he left the party because of his disappointment with the two leading political parties in Nigeria. He renounced his membership of the PDP in Yola, the Adamawa State capital. Meanwhile, the organizing secretary of the People's Democratic Party in Adamawa State, in a reaction, accused Dr. Ardo of anti-party activities and described him as one who failed to add value to the party.
Have we ever seen him participated in any PDP meeting?
The former secretary to the government of the Federation and one-time Senate President Ayim Pius Anyim has promised to revamp the economy within the shortest time if elected president. Senator Pius Anyim made the promise while addressing potential presidential delegates of the People's Democratic Party in Jos Plateau State during a visit to the party secretariat to formally express his interest in leading the country. He said 2023 will be a defining moment for Nigeria and the PDP can win only by respecting zoning.
If we are looking for integrity, if we are looking for capacity and competence, I think I put my credentials on the table.
A universal brotherhood of man.
A professor of political economy and management, Professor Pat Utomi, has urged Nigerians to use the 2023 general elections to correct the mistakes of the past to move the nation forward. He made the call in Abuja at a media conference organized by the Caritas Nigeria and Catholic Action for Catholics in Politics and Commerce. According to Professor Utomi, the practical electioneering is set to commence as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, would soon release the guidelines and procedures for the 2023 elections.
People of faith must say that enough is enough, that we want a new country, and that these kinds of leaders should not be allowed to continue to lead us.
Back to the big story for the day. While efforts are still being made to account for all the passengers, crew and security officers that were on the train, we have news just in from the Kaduna State government regarding that, saying that it has received a passenger manifest for the attacked Abuja-Kaduna train. 8 bodies have been recovered, while 26 people were injured. Several people are still unaccounted for, and search operations continue. The Kaduna State government says that the detailed passenger manifest for the Abuja-Kaduna train service AK9, which was attacked by terrorists yesterday, had 398 passengers buying tickets for the trip, while 362 were validated as having boarded the train through the recognized turnstile. The passenger manifest, according to this statement, does not include the Nigeria Railway Corporation staff, as well as security officials who were on board. Furthermore, security agencies have reported again that 8 bodies were recovered and 26 persons were injured during the attack. The statement goes on to say investigations are ongoing. But earlier on, the Kaduna State Emergency Management Agency put out a contact number for inquiries and information from family members of the passengers. And the number is 0908 892 3398. Again, just for family members and contacts who want to make inquiries and find out more, the Kaduna State Emergency Management Agency has put out this number for inquiries and information from family members of the passengers. Well, the state government has also condemned the terrorist attack and expressed its sympathy and solidarity with all the passengers, while extending its condolence to the families of the passengers that died in the attack. A statement from the Special Advisor to Governor Nasir El-Rufai on media, Mr. Muyiwa Adeke, says the state government will continue to liaise with the federal government and security agencies to protect the people and defeat the terrorists and other criminals. So there's still so much to wrap our heads around. What do we make of this? What are we missing? How do we move on to forestall a future attack? So let's join our guests tonight on the program. Having set the background, we have joining us from our Abuja studio, Senator Shehu Sani, who is a former federal lawmaker. Senator Sani, thank you for joining us on the program tonight. I know that you tweeted about this attack at about 8:51 p.m. yesterday. And in previous times, you have spoken about surviving a similar attack on that same stretch. So hearing this one happen, first, can you walk us through how this one hit you?
Well, first of all, I was not surprised that that train was attacked, in the very sense that October last year, in the same very place, at the same time, and the same train was attacked by the same terrorist using the improvised explosive device. And since that time, we need to ask ourselves, what have we done differently to forestall this attack that happened? Nothing was done. Let us be mindful of the fact that the trains we use don't have sensors that will detect objects like explosives ahead of the route. They don't have it. And again, time and time again, these same terrorists have tried a number of times, perhaps using other objects to see how they can stop the train, but they failed. And on many occasions, they tried to use the herd of cattle and push them over the tracks, and then they were crushed. So this idea of using IED started from last year. And unfortunately, this time around, it came with tragic consequences. People were kidnapped, and then many died, and then many were injured. But I believe that if we have a habit of learning lessons from what happened in the past, we couldn't find ourselves where we are. The Kaduna-Abuja train has become the only safest means of travel to Kaduna, having seen the fact that the road has been consistently been attacked by bandits, and the airport's road is still not safe. So with what has happened to the trains now, the question is, how do we access our own city? But what I know very well is that if security agencies will be proactive in taking the war to the camp of these bandits and terrorists, we couldn't have experienced what we experienced. First of all, on Saturday, there were reports of terrorists attacking the vicinity of the airport. And then on the same day when this train was attacked, terrorists numbering over 300 attacked villages between Kaduna and Niger State and displaced thousands of people who later moved as IDPs to Jerry Town. Now, with all this sequence of events, the question people need to ask is, where is intelligence? Where are security agents? And just some 2 hours ago, there were reports that along the same Kaduna-Abuja, where you have a bridge that crosses to Abuja, along the same Kaduna-Abuja road, terrorists were seen on motorcycles in hundreds passing by, and it sent panic to motorists. So the question we still need to ask ourselves is, when will this problem come to an end? It's going to only come to an end if our security agencies, our government, do the right thing. For now, things are not done according to how they should be. And we live in a situation whereby attacks will happen, people are killed, people are kidnapped, once the issue goes out of headline, and then we still go back to where we come from. So that is my thinking, is that if we are going to bring an end to this problem, we should do things differently. And if you ask me what are the things we need to do differently, I can give you answers to it.
Right. We'll get to that in a moment, Senator. But just so a lot of people can understand, not everyone understands that access. I've been on that train not once, not twice, that route. So at least I have an inkling as to how the terrain looks like. But that's essentially your base. So you know what the terrain is like. So talk to us about the terrain of that area. 183 kilometers, that's the stretch of that rail track from Abuja to Kaduna. You have villages and all of that. So how is the terrain in such a way that you have bandits being able to move around seemingly freely to even carry out attacks upon attacks?
You see, the three states that are located within that axis, Zamfara, Kaduna, and Niger State, have become a sort of hub for terrorism and banditry. it reached a point whereby many villagers pay levies and taxes to go to their farms or to harvest their crops. They have displaced thousands of people and have impoverished so many people. And in parts of Niger State even, they took control of some villages and some little towns in the hinterlands. So if we are to do things differently, then we need to involve the locals, see how we can arm, support, and fund the vigilante groups and those who are volunteering to take on this war to them. That is very important because it's their village, it's their homelands, it's their native lands. They know the places very well. And what surprises me time and again is that each time you have this mass kidnapping of not just 2, 3, 10, or 20 people, 100, 200 people kidnapped, you don't see any serious rescue operation until the parents, the relatives or relations of these victims pay ransom before they are being released. And go to the villages. There are about 35 villages between Kaduna and Abuja. All the villagers there, they know the bandits, they know their routes, they know the time they move around. All you need to do is to engage them and see how they can factor in the security system so that we can have solutions to this problem. Now it has reached a point where people are even afraid to give information on where the bandits are because the bandits are closer to the people than the government is. So if we have to tackle this problem, we cannot do it without getting the people involved.
And that's a very interesting point you make. I recall just recently the military having to put out a statement saying, do not disclose operations within your locality to people, do not compromise security operations. So clearly there's been that perhaps ongoing battle with, yes, you need to work with locals, but there have been cases, and we've heard these cases, of compromise on the path of locals as well. Are they really helpless in this? Because some of them have to pay levies and all of that. So how can you reinforce that strong belief in the military, that the military would protect them, the security agencies will protect them, such that they can just stay committed in terms of giving information just to the military and not compromise? How can you reinforce that in the people?
Well, the bandits and the terrorists have no responsibility to the state, but security agencies have responsibility to the state and the people. And it is about the military are here, the bandits are here, and the people are in between. And for the people, we have to create a condition, an atmospheric condition where by whatever information they give out, they will be protected and will be useful for them. In this situation, I think the problem is the intelligence gathering system. From Kaduna to Abuja is about 160 kilometers. And then you ask yourself, as a country with a population of 211 million people, a country with a government that has prided itself and has promised to restore order, security, and address the security challenges we have in the country, what stops us having drone stations that will gather intelligence and transmit information to the necessary troops on the ground to attack those terrorists in their camps? If you go to Regina, ask any young person or any old man, who are the bandits? He knows who they are and he knows where they are. But the point is that how can he be protected? How can his information be useful? How does he trust those he will give the information without compromising his own security and risking his own life? That's the issue. So if we are going to take on this problem frontally, security agencies must use the necessary technology. There's a need to set up a drone station in Suleja or Zuba area where the activities of these bandits of Niger State and Kaduna State can be immediately gathered and transmitted. Now, if we are a serious country, how can you kidnap people in a train? And up to this time, there is no attempt to block the routes to which these hostages will be taken to. And from Kaduna to Abuja, it's not a mountainous area, it's not a swamp, it's not of any difficult terrain. It's not a Sambisa forest where people cannot see anybody. It's a flat savanna land in a serious country. How can you say people are kidnapped from Kaduna to Abuja and 24 hours after, there is virtually no information? And it is possible for the next few days there will still be no information. Look at the Greenfield University, which is in the outskirts of Kaduna. Look at the number of students that were kidnapped. There was no rescue until they were being freed by payment of ransom. The Federal College of Agricultural Mechanization in Kaduna, students were kidnapped. There was no rescue operation until ransom was paid. The Bethel Baptist High School, the parents and the relations of those boys have to pay ransom for their own words to be freed. So it has reached a point people have even lost hope in the security agencies. They have lost hope in governors, in government. All they want is that once they establish contact with kidnappers, they pay their ransom and get their own hostages out. Now you ask, where is the government in a situation like this? Our people are being killed every day. They are being kidnapped. Now it moved away even from the point that the kidnapping is not just along the rail tracks or the roads. Now they go to the outskirts of Kaduna, kidnap people and take them out of Kaduna, sometimes transport them up to Zamfara State. So where are all these security networks? Where are all these intelligence networks? People need to ask questions. They will tell you security is everybody's responsibility. It's the responsibility of those who are employed, paid by state resources to do what they're supposed to do. What people can simply do is complement what professionals need to do. And they are failing. Our people are dying. Now, kidnapping has simply become a daily occurrence. Many villages have left their villages. People don't go to their farms. Even elites who have established mechanized farms outside of Kaduna now have simply run away. So the question is, what should we do? What we need to do, first of all, is to use the locals. There is no reason that the 35 villages between Kaduna and Abuja, all the young boys and young women and young ladies and people who are capable, why can't they be organized to protect the road and to protect the rail? We didn't do that. Where are the drone stations? They are not there. So as far as I'm concerned, I have not seen any serious attempt on the side of the government or security agencies to tackle this problem. And I believe that until and unless we do that, nothing matters.
We're due for a break now, Senator, but by way of update, we understand that some of the victims, the kidnapped victims, have been rescued, including the former deputy governor of Zamfara State. Although he was shot, but he's been rescued along with others. So perhaps some bright spots to at least celebrate in the midst of all of this sad news. But we need to go to break, Senator Sonny. But when we come back, you talked about, the solutions. The president met with the service chiefs earlier, and he talked about the activation of a certain surveillance system, not just for the Kaduna-Abuja rail, but for the Lagos-Ibadan rail as well. Don't forget, amidst all of this, there's been another fresh attack, this time on a train station on that same route. All of this we'll look at when we return in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Just before we continue our conversation with former federal lawmaker, Senator Shehu Sani, let's again bring you this update from the Kaduna State government, which says it has received the manifest, the detailed passenger manifest for the Abuja-Kaduna train service AK9, which was attacked by terrorists last night. Now, according to the document, which the state government says it received 398 passengers bought tickets for the trip, but 362 were validated as having boarded the train through the recognized turnstile. The passenger manifest does not include the Nigeria Railway Corporation staff and security officials who were on board. So far, the security agencies have reported that 8 bodies were recovered and 26 persons were injured during the attack. Well, let's continue our conversation. Senator Sonny, so you were talking about the solutions to this, but if we could just step back a bit. We saw the attack, or the attempted attack as it has been called, on the airport on Saturday. There was another explosion which injured 2 people in Igabi and a pocket of others across the state. But seeing this trend, airport, rail station, twice in less than 24 hours. What is the thinking behind this? If you can perhaps shed light on it. Why attack those strategic infrastructure, airport and rail?
Well, first of all, there is some form of mix-up as for the nature of the criminal gangs that are operating in Northwest. There are those that are categorized as bandits, and there are those that are categorized as terrorists. And it is important that people understand this distinction. Bandits are those that kidnap, extort, and unleash mayhem, and they have no any ideological or theocratic agenda as a criminal group. But terrorists, like that of the ISWAP and Boko Haram, have a theocratic agenda, and they go to communities, they preach, they indoctrinate people, they conscript people to fight their cause, and they have some religious inclination to their own act of evil and terror. Now, the question is, attacks on facilities like this is to maximize damage and send a clear message to the state that terror is in control. And it is a fact that terrorists within the northwestern region have become a state within a state. There are reports and instances, you can go back, record and see, where in some rural communities, they even install their chiefs and imams. So you can see how they are performing the functions of a state. Now, how did we get here? Well, we got here because we refused to do what is right at the right time. We delayed for so long, and we committed resource in the wrong way. For example, if you go through the budgets in the last 7 years, over 3.5 trillion naira has been allocated to defense. And you can hear what the late former chief of army staff said, that he took over and he has nothing to work with. So the question you need to ask yourself, with all this amount of money that is pumped into defense and security, where is the security and where is the defense? How can a nation that spends trillions of naira in defense and security find it impossible or difficult to confront a band of terrorists riding on motorcycles holding AK-47? So the question is that where did we go wrong? We went wrong in a number of places. One is that our resources have not been committed to security and defense specifics that will address this issue. Secondly, we refuse to use technology. The practice that is going on now is still the 19th century one, where you have a roadblock, torchlights are being flashed on people, tell you to up your boot and then on the inner light and let's see your face. And how can you defeat terror with this kind of strategy? And the next aspect of it is that what have we done in terms of getting people involved? There are volunteer groups in Niger State, in Borno State, in Zamfara State, and in Kaduna State that have volunteered to take this battle to this terror. How have we supported them with vehicles and communication equipment for them to be able to fight? We didn't do that. So we are still going around the cycle. Each time you have these attacks, all you read is that there's going to be either crucial meeting, important meeting, urgent meeting, emergency meetings, and the president has given marching orders, immediate orders to crush them, to exterminate them, to incinerate them, and then nothing changes. So we can't continue around the cycle. How can a group of terrorists that are not more than 5,000 to 10,000 become a problem for a nation of 211 million people? We need to ask questions. Look at a country like Rwanda. Of recent, terror jihadist group occupying lands and unleashing evil in northern part of Mozambique. Rwanda was invited. Paul Kagame issued directive, and Rwandan troops were in northern part of Mozambique, and these terror groups were crushed. How can such a small country be able to take security issues seriously and be able to tackle all this? We can't hear. Look at our neighbors in Cameroon, in Chad, Senator, in Niger Republic, and Benin Republic. They
if I
don't
may
have
comment
the
now,
problems we have.
Right.
How is
If
it
I may comment now,
impossible
Senator
for us
Sonny.
to do all these things here?
So
Kaduna
earlier on, where you made
some of the
you can land on that point. Just go ahead.
Kaduna hosts some of the largest military facilities in this country. And look at how our state is under siege. Look at how our city is under siege. Everyone has simply become helpless. You can't move out of the town anytime after 7 o'clock. Wherever you go, there are about 4 to 5 channels into Kaduna. They want to Lagos, they want to Zaria, southern Kaduna, and then to Abuja. Now, all the roads have been blocked. So, where is the government in all these things here? The pledges made by those in the position of power that when they come, they will address the problem of security paralysis as it exists in Nigeria today.
So, Senator Sonny, still talking about this security matter now.
To which
it's quite interesting.
While they were in the opposition.
Pardon me. So it's quite interesting you spoke about, you try to differentiate between terrorists and bandits, even though as it stands now, the law actually classifies the bandits as terrorists. So it's expected that they are approached as such. But now, talking about how to solve this, do you see, I know you've talked about state police a lot in your intention to run for governor and how you intend to approach this. Is this something perhaps for state police to resolve? Maybe break it down such that we can be more nimble in approaching these issues. Do you think there's a way for state police to resolve this kind of issue?
Well, we are at a certain state now as a people and as a nation that whatever ideas that can be practicalized in terms of addressing our security challenges should be done. But my own reservation on security, on state police, is on the fact that people in the position of power, like governors, they can misuse it to persecute opposition and use it as an armed wing of the ruling party in the state. But if I succeed to be the governor of Kaduna State, I believe that I will be able to address the security challenges of Kaduna State without even having state police, because I am going to involve the people in the defense of their ancestral and territorial land against these bandits that have been unleashing mayhem. They are killing our people in northern Kaduna, killing people in southern Kaduna. They have become a terror state. And how can you pride yourself as a man in government and you can't protect your people?
All right. Senator Sonny, so let's talk about trying to also move forward from this. I talked about the meeting which the president had with the service chiefs earlier today, and from that meeting we understand that the president actually directed the immediate implementation of an integrated security surveillance and monitoring solution for the Abuja-Kaduna rail line as well as the Lagos-Ibadan rail line. I believe that speaks to the issue of sensor and surveillance, which you talked about earlier on. But how do you see the government instilling confidence in people in the build-up to getting this running back? Because that's a major route for people traveling between Kaduna and Abuja. So how can we begin to instill confidence? The president has said that this must be fixed and, the services must resume as soon as possible. So looking at all of that, is that enough to instill confidence? Do we need to do more?
Well, you see, I'm tired of all these things here. Whether directing security agencies or ordering them or urging them or calling them or pressing them or forcing them. I am tired of all these directives that are not producing any result. All what I want is action should be taken to protect the life of our people and end this kidnapping and senseless bloodletting by terror groups. And it has to be done now. And now, when you go back to what government says they will do, after the attacks on October, which I happen to be one of the victims there was pledged that and promises made that helicopters will be used to escort these trains. It was simply abandoned. And in a track like that, in a rail track that moved from Kaduna to Abuja, and when you have one incident of bombing, it should be expected that sensors will be implanted in these trains so that they can see what is ahead of them and then action will be taken. But each time you are in this train, you are simply like a moving concrete. There is virtually no information, whatever is ahead. I have experienced 4 to 5 times where about 200 to 300 cattle were crushed along the track. So all the promises made are usually made after a tragedy like this happens, and there is virtually no follow-up. If this president have to leave anything behind, is to leave Nigeria a safer country than how he inherited it, because security issues was used to evict, to dislodge, to eject Jonathan out of power. And the same standard today is where we find ourselves. If we can't do what we promised to do as a people, as leaders in this country, then we lose our moral right to be in the position of leadership. So whatever the president will say he will do, he should have time to go and see whether it is done or not. For now, all the directives he has been given for the last 6 to 7 years have virtually not been able to protect our people. So as for us, whatever the leaders of this country will see can only be assessed if the result is very clear that people are protected from terrorists, for which they are not.
Can you provide more insight, Senator, into the intricacies of Kaduna State? The attacks we have seen, the terrorism. Kaduna has been in the news quite a lot for, the wrong reasons altogether. So really, what is peculiar about Kaduna State? All of these attacks, is it political? Is it economic? Is it ethnic? What exactly is at play here? Perhaps you can give us an inkling, because for as long as I can remember, Kaduna has been in the news for some of these security incidents.
Well, Kaduna lies in between some states that have been facing a serious security challenge, and we can't be impervious to it. The Niger State, 7 to 8 local governments, according to official figures, are virtually under the control of bandits and terrorists, and these local governments are next to Kaduna State. Zamfara State too, local governments within the border region of Kaduna are also in the hands of bandits. So we can't be insulated from their problem. So as far as Kaduna is concerned, I think what is so peculiar about the state, if you look at northern part of Nigeria, is the second most industrialized state. And terrorists, especially those that kidnap and extort ransom, they go to where they felt that they will be able to get and make maximum profit out of their own criminal activities. And I believe that they knew that they can get more in a place like Kaduna than other states. So this is simply, and again, it is also a route to other states in northwestern part of Nigeria. So that is why we are specifically targeted. But I believe that whatever solutions we are going to provide to address the problems of Kaduna State, it has to be done in coordination with other states around the state. But for now, if we don't do anything, the kidnapping is not simply going to be about what is happening on the rail lines, the airports, and the roads, but they're going to come right into the city and do what they need to do. Right now, almost everyone is like a sitting dog. Everyone is at the mercy of these criminal gangs. And questions we need to be asked. Where is the government in all of these things here? They need to act. They need to do something. And it is Senator, not simply about making statements, because I reached a point now, whatever happens, government condemns, NGOs condemns, and people like us on retirement too, we condemn. So everyone is simply condemning and nobody is doing anything.
Senator, I need you to hang on a minute. We need to expand this conversation. We're joined on the program this evening by Comrade Segun Esson, who is the Secretary General of the Nigeria Union of Railway Workers. He joins us via Zoom from here in Lagos. Comrade Esson, it's great to finally have you on the program. It's been quite a work getting you on. I know that railway workers are also at the receiving end of all of this series of attacks and incidents. And I'd like you to tell us, yesterday's attack, today's attack as well, what more do you know about all of this going on?
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me.
It's really quite unfortunate that we're having a recurrence of such attack, which of course we had the kind first around October last year. And this time round again, which of course was precisely yesterday, another one happened. And I can say that we are really very worried and we are so much concerned, particularly about the safety of our workers, that is the Nigerian rail workers, particularly about the safety of our hardened facilities. And of course, equally important, we're as well very concerned about the safety of the commuting Nigerians who have chosen the train as their preferred mode of mobility. We are really very concerned, and with such thing happening for the second time yesterday, and similar thing again in less than 24 hours happening again, I think it behoves on virtually all well-meaning Nigerians to call on the government to up its act, particularly in the area of ensuring safety of lives and property across the nation. And as Nigerian Railway is concerned, the federal government should be, mindful of the carriageability, the additive carriageability, of the train. And if at that position, the train is attacked, it will have to be, recording a monumental impact, because the train is not like a BRT bus out there that carries just a minimum, a very few number of people. A train carries passengers in thousands. And this is why we expect the government to be more proactive, to be more reactionary in ensuring the safety of lives and property within and around the Nigerian railway facilities across the system, particularly in Kaduna, where we have most unfortunately been recording quite a number of, security-related challenges and all of that. As far as the union is concerned, we are really, really, really concerned, and
Comrade,
we feel
you
the
put out a
government should be
statement
called upon to do something about this.
So you put out a statement earlier about this incident. You talked about some things you had mentioned in previous times to be done to forestall such attacks, and surveillance is one of them. You talked about CCTV, that the trains should not travel at night, and all of that. So the president had a meeting with the service chiefs, and there was this directive to implement the integrated security surveillance and monitoring solution for the rail line. Does that put to rest the agitations you made?
Well, you are very correct. Those were the recommendations, those were the suggestions we had in the first time when we recorded the attack last year, October. And it was actually born out of a concern, for safety of the passengers, the railway workers, as well as the safety of the railway facilities. We feel that the government needs to put its feet on ground and engage in a very comprehensive, risk assessment that must consider these three elements. And the three elements are, one, the element of threat, the element of vulnerability, as well as the element of consequences. Because the railway is a mass carrier of passengers. And this is why we suggested in the first instance, when this happened last year, that it would have been really very good and of course worthwhile for the government and of course all concerned, the management of the railway system, the federal government, which up to this moment and now is the owner of Nigerian Railway.
Okay, Comrade,
something.
Well, pardon me, we're winding down now. I need to introduce our third guest. Thankfully, we've gotten a hold of him. But quickly, in 10 seconds, do you have... okay, well, there we have him. We'll get back to Group Captain in a moment. But Comrade Eson, do you have casualties on the path of railway workers as well? What do you know about that? Can you tell us in about 10 seconds or less?
Presently, we don't really... We can't really confirm if there is any casualty, because we are still very much on ground, you know, putting information together and processing them and getting to know what actually happened. But what we can confirm right now is that quite a number of, you know, workers on that train have been missing. We've not been able to get them. Like the local driver, we've not been able to locate him, and quite a number of others. So we cannot precisely say now if there is any casualty until probably when all information will have been converged and looked into.
Well, let's tie this up now.
Facts are further discussed.
We'd like to thank you so much for joining us on the program, and begin with Senator Shehu Sani, a former federal lawmaker who joined us from our Abuja studio. Senator Sani, it's been a pleasure having you on the program, as well as Comrade Segun Eson, the Secretary General of Nigeria Union of Railway Workers, who joined us via Zoom this evening. Thank you so much, as well as the Group Captain Sadiq Shehu. We didn't quite get to have that conversation, but hopefully in the coming days we will. But the gentlemen, thank you so much for your time on the program tonight. Well, that's our package, everyone. Thank you for watching.